Hey Caster, Derek here, Breaker 6 Clan. Today I am in my office because I'm still working on the shop, but we're going to be going through the Gadget Talk Magic Blocks. So, let's get started. Alright, so as many of you know, I am one of the hosts of Gadget Talk, and we've been putting out some different boxes on our channel to help you with different builds. We've done the Simon Can, we've done a couple others different, like a chase game and some other games, and now based off of one of Tricash's ones, Magic Blocks, we are now offering Magic Blocks. And this is the box that you would get if you make an order to the store, Magic Blocks. So let's go ahead and open this up and let's see what all you get, and we're going to put a couple of these together. So let's get going. Alright, so really great box. Chad did a really great job printing this up, and it just looks really cool. So alright, so we're going to open it up. Alright, so there's our build instructions first off, and let me tell you, Dave Wagner, DJW House, does these build instructions, and he does such a fabulous job, and I will be using these as I'm going through putting this Magic Box together. Alright, so we're going to set those to the side for a second. Alright, so the next thing that we have in here is that we have some foam padding, which we will be using here shortly in here, because there's some places that we have to put some padding so it doesn't rattle around as you're putting them together. Then as you see, we have 4 blocks in here, and so we have to build 4 of these, and that's why I'm only going to build 2 of them so you can see how it works. But you'll put 4 of these, build 1, and you repeat that, and it's just really cool. So alright, so let's open up one of these. So the lid comes right off, and all your parts for your Magic Blocks is actually inside there. So let's see here. I see here we got a 7-segment display. We have a bunch of little dip switches. There's some resistors, some screws, and then there's the board itself there. We have one set of the reed switches. There's one with the wires, and then the other part of the reed switch which is just the magnet, which would complete it. But remember, we're going to be doing this with one of these each in a block, so it actually activates it. And then we have our component for our batteries. So it's just the 2 AA batteries on here, and I'll go into what batteries you should use on this, but like I said, I'm only going to do 2 of these because what's in each one of these blocks is the same thing. So once you get it set up, then we'll go ahead and put it in there. Once you get all 4 of them ready, then it will work with all of them. But we're just, like I said, we're just going to do 2 of them to save time, and because it's just the same process over and over and over again. But I want to show you how it actually activates, how it actually comes together to activate the numbers. Alright, so now first thing is I gotta break out the instructions and go through it, and we're gonna start going through and building the Magic Blocks. Let's go. Alright, so as we looked at the board and the instructions, you have this R1, R2, R3. Well, that's for the resistors. And so first thing is we're gonna put these resistors into place, and we have 3 resistors that were provided for us. So we'll go ahead and get those into place. And the way we do that is, just real simple. You just bend them and you stick them in the hole. And I'm just going to go ahead and put all 3 of these in. So when I flip this over with my board here, we will go ahead and get all those soldered right into place, and then we'll kind of clean up the connection on the other side. So that's what we're going to do now. And of course, yes, there is soldering in this one, but it's really simple soldering on this board. So make sure that you have a really good soldering iron to do this, and I'll have links for soldering irons and all that down in the description below, and those are affiliate links, so those do help the channel out as well. So let's go ahead and finish up getting these resistors in, and we'll go ahead and solder them up, and then we'll move on to the next step. Let's go. Alright, so now I've got those resistors in place, and the next step that we do is that we take our dip switch that was provided. And what's really great about this dip switch is previously when we did on the build on Gadget Talk, when we did the 7-segment display, we had to actually individually wire which one is going to that display. Well, with the dip switch is that now we just have to select what number we want using the dip switches, and that will give us the number that we want in there, which is really great, because what happens if you want to change your lock? on there or move it to a different location, you don't want the same combination, well, now all you have to do is change the dip switches. So now let's go ahead and put the dip switch in place, and it's really great because everything is completely labeled for you on this board, and so you just refer to from the board to the instructions that Dave once again did and just put it in there. Now, one tip I will give on when you're putting this in here, I'm going to use a little bit of tape on here to kind of hold it in place when I flip this board over for when I solder this. So that's just a really easy tip. Just kind of use a little bit of tape. I'm just using some painter's tape. I'm just going to tape that kind of in place so when I flip it, it doesn't fall out. And now all I'm going to do is just solder that other end. And once that's soldered, then I can go ahead and just remove the tape right off of it. And that is nicely in place, and that is ready to go. And now we're just going to move on to the next step, which looks like in the instructions is to place the segment display. Now remember, when you're placing the segment display, you want to make sure that it is going in the correct place. So you want to make sure that when you drop it in here, it is oriented right. And in the instructions, it really does tell you how you orient everything. So just follow those instructions, and like once again, I cannot stress this enough, Dave did a phenomenal job on these instructions. So I'm just going to put the 7-segment display in place, and then we're going to go ahead and solder it once again. Alright, so now the 7-segment display is in place, and next step is simply now we're going to add the power to it. And the way it's set up, I mean, once again on the board itself it says battery, positive and negative, where it has a square and a circle. So on the back will actually tell you which one it is, ground or red and black. So that's what you're going to connect with the power here itself. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to run it from the way it has it. This comes from the top, and then it goes into the back of it. So we're just going to kind of run these wires. I want to make sure I get it right. The red is on the far side, so that's the round one. So I'm going to run it in this direction, and then I turn it over, and then I stick those into the holes right there, and then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to solder the other end. And what this does, this little bend here, keeps it from kind of giving it strain. So that's why we're doing it like that. So you just simply, once again, just kind of get it in place. And if you feel like you need to tape it, you can tape it, but with that bend in there, it really actually kind of locks it in place. So I'm just going to flip these over, and then I'm going to solder those connections right there. So let's get that soldered. Alright, so now those are soldered in place, and that's just, like I said, that's just such a really great way of doing the power, and I love how Dave always has that really explained out. Now the next step is, now we actually will install the reed switch. And this is kind of has a really long cord, but that just kind of helps you so you can kind of get it into place where you want it in the box itself, and it's not really going to get in the way. So if you feel the need to actually that you need to cut it, you probably can, but I'm not going to cut it because I don't know where I want to put it, and if I ever want to move it, I have this extra space, and that way, if I do want to move it, or something happens with the connection, I'll actually have an area where I can actually cut it off of there. One thing I will probably do is actually kind of get it even here, so that's what I'm going to just cut to even to the shortest one that I have here. So let's go ahead and get that done. And so I'm just going to kind of real quick just make it even and just cut it, and then I'm going to use my wire strippers and just get a nice little edge on it again. And then once again, this is just a continuous connection. So all I'm going to do is just kind of put it into the holes. Once again, I'm going to come in from the top here on this and bring it through, and it'll be ready to solder on the other end. So let's go ahead and get that done. Alright, so now actually all the soldering and everything is done on this board itself. Now what you need to do is we just need to put some batteries in it, and then all we need to do is program what the 7-segment display is going to display, what number, and then that one's ready to go, and then we can install it into the box, and then we repeat it. And that's all this is. I mean, it's just real quick soldering, and we set the display. So now let's go ahead and set this display. I think I'm gonna set it to a 4, and in the instructions, once again, it kind of tells you how to set it into a 4. So I'm just gonna set this as a random 4. And so let's go ahead and get that set up. And it's real easy. So as it comes in, it says for number 4, it's B on. Okay, and so switches to activate B. So everything is off right now. So I want 4's number going to be on, or B, sorry. B is on. Now I got the dip switches set up here for doing number 4, and the batteries I'm doing, and this is not sponsored, of course, I'm using Energizer Ultimate Lithium, and these are really great battery for doing this. These will last just about forever. So you're not going to have to do a lot of things, because the only time it's going to activate is when the reed switch comes in contact with the reed switch. So I'm just going to put these 2 of these batteries into this, and we'll see how this activates. I should get a number 4 when I connect the reed switch. So here we go, connecting the reed switch, and I'm missing something. So I must have done something, so I'm gonna go back through and double check what I did wrong, or I may have a solder over here wrong. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back in and double check it. Okay, now I've got it set just right. I had a switch that was kind of in the wrong place. It was really sensitive, but that's great. Now that number is set as number 4. Now all I have to do is go in and install it into the box and ready to go. All right, so the first step in putting this together is putting the batteries in place, and I'm just going to put them in here. There's an arrow inside of the box itself, so that's the top of that. So I put that in there. Next step is taking this cushion that we have, and all we're going to do is just it's a 6 inches, so we're just going to cut it into 1.5 inch increments. So I'm just going to kind of cut it. You can mark it with a pen and then cut it, or I'm just going to kind of just cut it there. Then I place that in place in here, and I think we'll go with it sideways, like you can go either way. I think it may be better if we go long ways in here, and then we go ahead and place the board in here with it, and the orientation that they have it. So the orientation is with the battery coming off from the top. So then we kind of tuck those cables in there, and this is where we're going to be taking some of our screws, and we're going to be actually mounting that into place, and that's the next step. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that mounted into place. Alright, so now that I've got the PCB in place, I'm going to take the reed switch, and I'm going to just kind of select which one I want to do. Now remember, these are going to go together to activate the numbers, so you want to make sure that the reed switches are in the correct location. So I'm going to leave the top open for right now to make sure I get these lined up. So one will activate when, both of them will activate when I put it in. So I'm just going to kind of put this one up here into the top up here, and then I'm just going to kind of tuck these cords, kind of get them nice and cleaned up, and kind of tuck them away where they're not going to be messing with anything. And so I'm just going to put those around here, and I'll make sure this is all cleaned up before we put it together. Now I'm going to grab the reed switch. Now when I put this here, I get the number 4. So on the next block, I'll go ahead and grab the next block now, and I'm going to go ahead and take, because I want this to be the next one to activate, so I'm going to go ahead and put my reed switch, the other side of the reed switch that I want it to activate, because I want this one to be the far left one. So this one will be in here, so when I put these together, it'll actually activate. And now what I'm going to do is going to go back in and redo this entire PCB on this other one to get that one ready. So when I put them together, I'll get 2 numbers. So let's go ahead and get that done. Okay, so now I've got those all wired up, and I did actually go back and kind of run the wire up underneath the PCB, because that just makes it look a little bit nicer as I was kind of doing this. So they're all wired up now. So when I take these 2, put them together, well, I get the 4, but I'm not getting the other number. So what I did real quick is just kind of put one of the other ends of the reed switch into the box itself. So now when I hold it here, I get a 4-1. But if I hold it here, nothing happens. I get a 1, but nothing. Here, nothing, nothing. So those reed switches have to be in place for those to give the numbers. And what you do is just go back through and just finish this up with the other 2 boxes, and then just kind of put the lids on and screw them in place, and then everything is ready to go out in the wild, except what kind of container you're going to put it on and what type of lock we put on it for. I mean, you could actually do this with 3, but it's going to be a lot more fun, I think, with 4. But just a really cool, fun, easy puzzle cache. I mean, just a real quick gadget cache, really neat with these magic blocks that just really work really great to figure out the combination. Well, first off, I want to thank Tricaches for coming up with this idea and letting us at Gadget Talk kind of put our own spin to it and make it available to everybody. And the reed switches that are in this, like I said, you can change it up if you want to change the combination of how the boxes go, you could do that. And the dip switches where you can change the actual numbers is really great. So I want to thank DJ W House for the hard work he did with the design of this one, putting it together for Gadget Talk. Chad for putting the boxes together and doing all that. Just a really cool job. Now, if you're wanting one of these, I have a link down in the description for the channel, or for the channel itself, and also for where you can actually purchase one of these magic block kits so that you could put it together and get it out in the wild. I hope you've enjoyed this. I know this has been a lot of fun. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the other 2 blocks on my own, but thank you for joining me today. But hey, don't go anywhere. Leave me a comment. Don't go anywhere, but leave me a comment and let me know what you thought of this, and if you would like to get one of these. And don't forget to check out the description for the links for the soldering iron, and if there's anything else I needed in there. But for sure, to go check out the link for the puzzle box. Hope you've enjoyed this today, but don't go anywhere. Go check out another one of these videos just right over here and find the story behind the cache.